All right, I'm ready to enjoy the fruits of our labor and your labor, and I cannot wait to see how well you do. We're going to go through the events in alphabetical order by request from our students. Next up is our biographical narrative champion, Stephen Fung.
5, 4, oh, I have to shoot and a score in the basket. Lin for the win. Linsanity, Linsanity. It almost seemed as if he came out of nowhere. Nobody really knew who he was, just one of the benchwarmers for a failing basketball team. But the sensation he created was heard globally. Jeremy Lin's rise to fame came from a meteoric 7 games with the New York Knicks of the National Basketball Association, or the NBA. The first 4 times he started games in his career, Lin scored a higher total than Hall of Famers like Michael Jordan or Shaquille O'Neal. He was the first American-born Chinese to play in the NBA. Lin was breaking barriers of racial stereotypes. He was breaking barriers of physical records. He was breaking barriers and breaking more barriers. Barriers, broken. He was winning so hard, he was Linning. He was doing the Lin possible. He was Lincredible, Linsane. He had it all. Media attention, money, and with money, the ability to buy more sushi and more McDonald's than most other people. Jeremy Lin was set for life. Or was he? Disclaimer, please listen for the added puns caused by adding the word Lin to words like insanity to create the word Linsanity. All quotes and facts come from Jeremy Lin's personal testimony, ESPN, RPM Ministries, the New York Times, and the Bible. Walk in the Talk, a biographical on Jeremy Lin. Jeremy was born as the second of 3 sons into a Christian, Chinese-American, quintessentially average household. He was even average in terms of his behavior. Sounded, in fact, a little bit like me. Listen to this, I quote, "Growing up, I was a nightmare. If I didn't get what I wanted, I'd take my head, find the nearest wall, and I'd just start banging my head against the wall like that. Ended up getting a lot of things that way." End quote. Kids, parents, spouses, please don't try banging your heads on the wall at home. I've done it before, and well, it hurts. The point is, he was normal. He didn't grow up in any specialized environment that nobody else could have. Or did he? Just like my parents, Jeremy Lin's parents moved to America one day and settled there for what would be perhaps the rest of their lives. But that perhaps is also where the similarity ends. His father, Jeremy Lin, turned on the TV one day and saw a game of basketball. It piqued his interest quite a bit, so his family, with wife Shirley and kids Joshua, Jeremy, and Joseph, grew up with the sport. Now, let me tell you, for an Asian American family to grow up in the 90s in the United States, liking the particular sport of basketball, the percentage is like, not small. It doesn't happen. And yet it did. Jeremy grew up playing basketball in his local YMCA in Palo Alto, California, and went on to win the state title during his senior high school year, as well as being named California's Player of the Year. However, going Lin to college, he received a grand total of exactly 0 athletic scholarships to any college whatsoever. So with no other options to turn to, Lin just had to go to Harvard. Harvard being a second choice, I wouldn't know. He became the first Ivy League player in its history to record more than 1,450 points. It's a lot of points. Smooth sailing, huh? No. Jeremy played for the Harvard Crimson basketball team, but during his time there, didn't really feel like there was much room for him. In his freshman year at Harvard, there were 19 Asian Americans in his division of men's college basketball. That's less than 0.5% of the total number, 5,000. Some of his teammates had cheers from the sidelines. Lin had more of something else. "Go back to China! Open up your eyes! Chicken chow mein! Orchestra's on the other side of campus!" Imagine with me for a moment the God that some people of today picture him as. Oh, it rained today because God saw a cute puppy and it was cute, so he cried tears of joy because it was cute. Oh, you actually ate that 2-pound box of Christmas chocolates? God's gonna give you cavities. No. That's not who God is. He created a world, a universe, and he planned everything that has, is, and will ever happen. But he also gave us a free will to do what we choose to do with life, and that's his genius. Jeremy took that free will and chose to play basketball. Out of college, he signed with an NBA team called the Golden State Warriors. NBA. People began texting him because he was in the NBA. People began calling him because he was in the NBA. And most importantly, he received 1,000 Facebook friend requests because he was in the NBA. This NBA thing is pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff. When Jeremy was younger, His parents had often told him to play for God's glory. Have you told your kids that? You gotta do this for God's glory. What does that mean? Athletes like Tim Tebow, Allison Felix say they play for God's glory. What does that mean? To Jeremy, it meant learning that whether he won or lost, that if he played for God in his heart, that God would have a plan for him. Learning that God could use him in any capacity to spread the seeds of the gospel. But perhaps he hadn't fully realized that yet. NBA. He's famous! Yeah, sort of, kind of. He plays a lot. No. He scores a lot. Well, he doesn't play a lot, so he can't score a lot now, can he? Jeremy's rookie season was rocky, to say the least. He rarely, almost never played, except in inevitable loss situations, and eventually was sent to the NBA's D-League, or Development League, where players who don't really make the cut go 3 times. During this period, he was so stressed, he was unable to eat or sleep the day before or the day of a game. On December 29, 2010, he wrote in his diary, "This is probably the closest to depression I've ever been. I'm lacking confidence on the court, I don't like playing basketball, and I feel embarrassed and like a failure." But then he realized that somewhere along the way, he'd shifted his perspective from playing for God's glory to playing for his own. And so again he wrote in his diary, and he told himself that he'd give his best effort and play only for God. He said, "I don't want to give myself any extra pressure to play well for anybody else." But in the middle of the next season, the Golden State Warriors fired Lin off their roster. He was soon picked up by another team called the Houston Rockets, but dropped by them as well. Eventually, on Christmas Day, the New York Knicks picked up Jeremy Lin. But again, didn't really feel like there was much room for him. Some games when he tried to get into the arena, he'd be stopped by personnel who would tell him, "Oh, you can't come in, this is only for the players," or "This is basketball, son, not volleyball." Eventually, New York too sent Lin once again to the Development League. Once again, he wondered, why was he there? Why was he there? But they retrieved him for one game, the one he thought might be his last before the New York Knicks and the NBA dropped him for good. That one game was just the beginning. Lin puts it up, puts it in. Jeremy Lin off to a terrific start tonight. 7 points. Lin knocks it down. Tough turnaround shot, and he gets it in. Jeremy Lin's on fire tonight. Looking to go spinning, and he puts it up and bags it in. Terrific play from Jeremy Lin. This young point guard from Harvard is electrifying the crowd here at Madison Square Garden once again. It was magical. One game after another, and soon they had won 7 games in a row. No losses. It was so magical, it was Linsane. Linsanity. Or perhaps this was all part of it. Part of a plan that had been pre-made, pre-packaged, double pre-blessed for Jeremy. For Jeremy, by God. Jeremy had become a shining city on a hill. If God gave you a platform, would you take it? Doesn't matter how or where you got it. If God gave you a platform, would you take it? Jeremy took that platform. He spoke. He wasn't afraid to speak about his faith or why he had faith. I quote, "When I die and I see God face to face and he has to decide whether he lets me into the gates of heaven or not, do you think he'll care about how many points I scored? No, he won't. What he'll care about is whether I loved him and I served him." End quote. Serving in Jeremy's own unique way. Recently, he gave speeches at conferences throughout Taiwan to audiences of thousands upon thousands. These speeches were also broadcast to a worldwide audience of over 2 million people. This platform, this was playing for God's glory. This was how God could use Jeremy to further the seeds of the gospel. And how did Jeremy put it? I quote, "This is what the world preaches. In high school, you want the best grades, you take those best grades to get to the best college. There you want the best degree, the best honors, for the best internship, for the best job. When you get that job, you want the best performance, the best promotion, you want to be the best in your field. And then you want the best car, the best gadgets, the best vacation home, so you can find the best husband, the best wife, make the best family, have the best kids. And then what? You want your kids to go to the best high school, get the best grades, to go to the best college. What good will it be for a man if he gains the whole world and yet loses his soul? Or what can anyone give in exchange for their soul? Matthew 16:26. How then could we save our souls? How could we satisfy ourselves? I quote, "If there's one thing that I've learned from Linsanity, it is that there is nothing in this world that can provide me with true joy, fulfillment, and satisfaction. There's only one thing that can truly and eternally satisfy me. That's Jesus Christ. When everything is said and done, Jeremy Lin is the only Jeremy Lin. But is he important? Yes. When everything is said and done, we are not Jeremy Lin. But are we important? Yes. Matthew 6:26, look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store up in barns, and yet your heavenly Father looks after them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Are you not much more valuable than they? You, Jeremy Lin, all of us can play for God's glory. Let me leave you with this one last thought. Faith doesn't make things easy, just possible. Thank you.
Isn't this fun?